Good day, historians, and welcome to today's lesson. I don't know what time you'll be listening to this, but I'm still gonna say good day, or good morning, or good afternoon, whatever, and welcome. So I decided to record this, and this is going to work as a supplement to the lesson that you are going to have. So this is still part of the background to the South African War, but specifically, we are going to start discussing from the migrant labor system. What was it? What was happening? And what took place? So this diagram is just an outline actually about the whole background to the South African War. The background to the South African War simply means what happened, the events that happened prior to the war, the events that happened prior to it that actually somehow led to the war. A lot happened prior to it, and this diagram is just already showing the outline of it. So, firstly, you can see everything is linked to something. All the events that happened are linked to something that happened. So, firstly, the discovery of diamonds in Kimberley is linked to the need for labor. The discovery of gold is also linked to the need for labor. Both of these discoveries needed labors, and meaning they needed all this cheap labor. You can see that. Okay, what else? The discovery of gold. Gold is linked to the South African War. It somehow led to the South African War. Due to what? We are going to come to discuss about that, but we already know the British wanted to take what? To take over the Transvaal and all these mining industries. And the Boers did not want that. However, let's wait on that. We are not talking about that as of yet. So this need for labor also ended up is linked to the formation of the ANC in 1912, later after the South African War and after the Union was formed. It is still linked to the formation of the South African War, and you can see all these things. The 1913 Land Act is linked to the Boers taking the land from the blacks and forced work on the mines, and later apartheid. Everything is linked to something. But let us continue to the next slide. The migrant labor system. Why were they called migrants? So these they were called migrants because the South African Republic did not recognize homelands as part of their republic. Remember, there was the Cape Colony, which was under the British rule, and the Natal, which was also under the British rule, and there were two republics, independent republics that were both the Boer republics. The other one was the Orange Free State, and the other one was the South African Republic, which we are currently talking about, also known as the Transvaal. So these republics did not recognize the chiefdoms of black people as part of the republics. Therefore, they considered the blacks coming to Transvaal as the migrants. Same applies to some foreigners, people from Botswana, Lesotho, Zambia, Zimbabwe, formerly known as Rhodesia. So those people were referred to as migrant workers because they were not recognized as Transvaalers. The booming mining industry created a very high demand for labor, and this led to the exploitation of workers and also the establishment of labor system that ensured a steady supply of cheap labor. In order for both the British and the Boers to get these the cheap laborers, they introduced a choice system. A choice system was a system whereby mine workers would pay people or recruiters, I might say, to go around recruiting people from their villages, from those chiefdoms. So they would go around selling lies to the people, telling them that they must come work in their mines, they're going to have good income, they're going to earn better income to take care of their families, and tell them all the good things, and people would go in numbers. However, when they get to the actual venues, to the actual mines, the working conditions there, the salary that they were getting, the wages that they were getting, the living conditions, they could see that this is not okay. A lot of people ended up running away from the compounds, which they were not allowed, because upon getting a job, upon signing a contract, black people were issued parcels which showed what mine exactly did they work for, which mine did they work for, and they had a fixed contract of about 6 to 12 months, and they would stay in hostels or compounds. And those compounds were very overcrowded and very unhygienic, and there was a very strict discipline. There were very disciplinary measures where people were given curfews and people were allowed to do this and that. People were told rules. They could live under rules, and the food there was not of the aptitude condition. So their families stayed behind in the rural areas, and they had to cope by themselves under these very bad living conditions. However, a lot of people started wanting to run away from that. In order to stop people from running away and leaving this job immediately after the contract ended, they introduced a hard tax. Hard tax was introduced to force people, especially those, because black people usually survived on farming, so they were trying to force them to leave the farms and come work, get income, and pay tax. They introduced tax, compulsory tax, that they had to pay. Obviously, in order to pay the tax, they had to make sure that they are working. And also, this mining revolution led to a whole different way of life. The livelihood of people changed. The way they were living their lives changed. A lot of things changed because men left their families to go work in mines. Children were raised without present fathers who would have that fatherly rule. You know what they say about growing up in a household where there's a man of the house who tells you, no, do not do this, stop that. So there's this belief that people are scared of men more than they are scared of women. If you are raised by a woman, apparently it is not me. It is a belief that somehow women are softer than men. Not that you're not going to be a good person or you're not raised well. You are raised well. However, mothers tend to be soft. They have that motherly thing in them that just makes them softer than men. So a lot of children grew up without present father in their lives because the father left to go fend for them. The migrant labor system marks a period in which African men were integrated into wage labor. So they were both black and white, unskilled workers on the mines. However, only black workers were migrant laborers who had to live in compounds and carry parcels. The white unskilled workers refused to be treated like the blacks. The white unskilled laborers were from the rural villages in the Transvaal, refused to be treated like blacks, and also the government supported them. The Boer government supported them. And after some time, some of the black unskilled laborers learned the skilled, obviously from working, obviously work experience also. They learned the skilled and could be hired, work together with white skilled workers, but they still would be getting paid low wages. So this started making the skilled white laborers insecure. If they can hire a black laborer at a low wage and still pay them less than me, but and pay them less than me for doing the very same job, it means in the future these people have the potential of taking our job from us. So they just made them uncomfortable and insecure, and they ended up forming trade unions to have their rights. And black people were obviously not allowed to join these trade unions. These whites went as far as striking, sorry. They just started some strikes and complaining to mine owners, to the bosses, that no, there has to be some changes. And there has to be some changes. So they were putting pressure on these companies, and they also demanded that the government should these pass laws, should the pass this should show an indication of, like, should reserve jobs. They should reserve certain jobs. For instance, if you are an unskilled worker, that pass will just allow you to get an unskilled worker job only. So this brought about job reservation. Like, it was just a policy that kept the better paid and skilled jobs for the white people only. So if you were black, unskilled job and paid less, and white, better and better pay. That was how everything happened. So black people worked in the mines for various different reasons. Some went there in order to get money so they can come back home and get married. Some so they could build their huts. Some also because they wanted to buy guns, to bed guns. Some also because they wanted money to buy kettles and stuff like that. Just starting manhood, growing up, reaching of age. Now they wanted to have their own things, so they would go to mines, work a bit, get the money, come back, buy manufactured goods and stuff. So they just did it for actually status. They wanted to have like that status. Others also went there because they were forced to pay tax. There was a hard tax were introduced, and these types of taxes was like levied on black South Africans, and it was forcing them to generate income to pay the tax. So they ended up going to mines, obviously, to get income so they could be able to pay tax. So they could be able to pay tax. And between the period of 1896 years to 1897, a serious sort of epidemic, is epidemic, came, and a lot of people, a lot of black people lost their kettles to sicknesses. A lot of their kettles died, and they were now forced to go back to work the mines where they ran away from, because now the only source of survival that they had was down and out.